for those of you that have been to listing presentations, I'm very confident that you will find that we are going to look at this listing presentation totally from a different perspective. And the key word is that most of the listing presentations that you're taught in a school, or if you go to some seminars, they usually focus that you should talk about yourself in the listing presentation that you go. Let me ask you a question. When you go to someone and you talk all good about yourself, that you're the #1 agent and you're the best and you will do the best, don't you think that people will get defensive and try to find weakness in you? So for that very reason, those of you that have attended the orientation class, which is the first Saturday of every month, I have explained that I have break down the listing presentation into 2 different parts. One is preparing for the listing presentation, and then the second part is the actual listing presentation. So for those of you that have not attended, you have missed that part, but don't worry about it. It's going to be again this first Saturday of next month. It is every first Saturday we will talk about it. We will touch upon it a little bit in a slide or 2 soon, but I think you have to prepare yourself. You have to prepare the client before going into their house. What we are focusing today is more sitting down with the client and as I said, looking at this listing presentation from a totally different perspective. Not too much about yourself. It is more about the property and about your client and what is their need. So if you have done preparing for the listing presentation, more than 50% of your job is done. So for agents, which I would say, well, let me guess, I think 99% of agents will not do this. They will do both parts together. So when they go to a listing presentation at people's houses, they will try to first sell themselves. And whenever, with whoever you try to sell yourself, as I said, people get defensive. They want to find weaknesses in you. And for that very reason, it is better to do the listing preparation before going. Now, we have a whole session about this, and I think some of you have missed it, but for now, let's just talk about it a little bit in this slide. That first of all, you have to, let's say, if you have come across someone that wants to list their property, you should not see them right away. As we were talking last time, you have to prepare them mentally that they will receive you and they will welcome you at their house. So one of the things that you should do for sure, you should have information package to your seller. And we have prepared here at Homelife, and it is available for you. All you have to do is change your photo here and your bio. The front staff, if you ask them, they can mail this for you. The point of this information package is that you do the selling of your brokerage, yourself, and industry through this package. If you have track record of sales, if you have flyers, if you have feature sheets, if you have newsletters, whatever marketing and advertising material you have, you would rather want to have it in this information package. So as we were talking last time, so instead of booking the appointment right away to see the client within a couple of hours, it is better to book the appointment for the next day. So before you see them tomorrow, for example, you drop the package at their house with all this information having. And then, of course, even before going to their house, you have to pre-qualify, which means if I'm walking you through step by step, you're dropping the package. In an hour or two, couple of hours later, you will call them and you have some pre-qualifying questions. This will bring confidence in a way that you're trying to show that you don't have free time. You're not desperate. They have to feel confident in you to give the listing. They are selling $500,000, $1 million, $700,000 property. They are not going to give it to an agent that they don't feel confident in. If they call you and if you jump in your car and right away drive to their home, trust me and believe me, they will not feel confident in you. They are not prepared to receive you. You will go and you do the listing presentation, they will just say, let me think about it, and they will never call you. Okay, so for that reason, listing presentation is a process that you have to follow, and it is into two sections. It is preparing yourself. Remember, preparing yourself and preparing the client. Now, with these steps, you're preparing the client, and this is the step that you're preparing yourself. You have to have some of the tools all the time with you, and one of the tools actually not listed here is that you have to have a filled listing documents. You are not going to waste your time or client's time sitting at their home filling the forms. As much as possible, fill the forms before going to their house. Okay? So this is a long presentation, and as I said, those of you that have attended before, you know what I'm talking about. So today we are talking about a different thing. It is about listing presentation. So that's why if you have mentally prepared them to receive you, to welcome you at their house, you will not be a salesperson. But rather, when you're going there, you're going to be their advisor. And there is a huge difference between trying to be a salesperson and being an advisor. If you have done a proper job, if you have prepared a proper package, dropping at their house, they already know that you're good in sales. They already know that you have a track record. They already know the list of 20 things that you're going to do for them. You're not there across the table in their house trying to sell yourself or sell your services. You don't want to sound like a salesperson. You would rather want to go there and go with the flow of the conversation, and that's why your role will shift from being a salesperson to being an advisor. And there is a huge difference. You're going to go with advising mentality. You are going with only one mandate in their house, that you're going to help them. You will give them the best advice possible. The biggest mistake that almost all agents make is that they mix these two parts. When they go to their house and they try to do sales pitch, they try to be the #1 agent in the world. They will list all the things that I'm going to do for you. These are all boring stuff. People will not believe when you talk about yourself. As I was saying, when you talk about yourself, even when you're trying to talk on a personal level to someone, if you're saying I'm good and I'm a good person and you talk all about yourself, people always try to find weakness in you. Right? And you don't want to be in that position. When you go to a listing presentation at seller's house, that's what happens with most agents. They do a sales pitch, and then the seller do not listen to the rest of your presentation. And that's why we have to separate this. You have to do selling of yourself by sending them your information package. So preparing this information package is very crucial. Ideally, first of all, you should not spend more than 20 minutes at seller's house. If you're going to do this part and the rest of the part that we are going to discuss today in 20 minutes, it will be impossible. So the more time you spend at seller's house, the less the chances that you will get the listing. Because the more questions they will ask, the more objections they will have, and the more you will be nervous, and the more you will be not able to get the listing. So it is very crucial. I want to make it very clear that you should divide your listing presentation into listing preparation and listing presentation. Okay? So when we are going to their house, all we should try to do is just listen to them. I think the bottom line is, if your client is talking more and you're just listening, you have done a good job. It means you have impressed them. Trust me, 99% of agents, when they go, all they do is just keep on talking. And of course, the seller is listening. When a person is observing, they are in a much better position to find objections in your presentation. Your goal should be that you should impress them before going, so that they do the talking, they ask you questions, they engage in a conversation. If you go to a listing presentation and your client is talking more than you, then you're successful. Your success rate goes much higher. Okay? And I think as I was trying to get into this point, that success, confidence comes when you have genuine, sincere feeling for your client. If you're really genuine, it will build confidence in you. At the end of the day, you want to help your client. You want to help the seller to sell at the highest price with the least amount of time possible. Those are the two goals. That's it. Highest price and least amount of time. If you're not focusing in selling yourself, and if you're not focusing in trying to show that you're the best in the world, if your focus shifts to your client, trying to help them, the confidence will come automatically as part of doing this. In any relationship, if your relationship is genuine, it will give you confidence. If your relationship is not genuine, there is always weakness in you that will take that confidence from you. So it is very important that if you're genuine, and that's why you will not be nervous, and there will be no disconnect. Otherwise, if you're just focusing, even before knocking the door, I mean, if you're going for a listing presentation, if you're not genuine, if you're not sincere, if all you're thinking is just to sell yourself and get the listing, you will be nervous. So that's why you have to make this process very natural. And I'm trying to help you out here by you mailing this package and trying to sell yourself and try to impress them before you get into their house. Okay? If you have done that job properly, then there will be no disconnect. So there is a big difference between trying to impress someone and trying to help someone. When you go for any type of conversation, even if you're going for dating someone, if you're trying to impress, you will be nervous. You will not do a good job. You're not genuine. And the other side, believe me, people have that sixth sense that they can feel that you're not genuine. So whether it is personal or business, if you're genuine, you will have a lot more inner confidence that the other side will feel from you. It will come, that positive vibe will come automatically from you that the other side can feel. So it's very crucial that you have to shift your mind from trying to be a salesperson, rather you want to be more in an advisory role. And some of the information in this presentation actually comes from this author. She's from US, Sell with Soul. She's looking at real estate industry from a different perspective. And this is one of the quotes from her, that confidence, as I was trying to say, comes when you care enough, genuinely, when you're sincere in your relationship. In any type of relationship, when you're genuine, when you're just yourself, then you will have full confidence. We are weak when we are not sincere and when we are not genuine. Okay? So instead of having a fancy listing presentation, by the way, at the end of this session, I will tell you, if I forget, remind me where to get the listing presentation. But I would rather do most of the listing presentation before going to their house. So instead of having a fancy listing presentation, I should go with a desire to help my client. I mean, of course, there are some tools that we will talk about, and the biggest tool to help your client is that you're aware of the market. I'm not talking about Ontario or Canada market. I'm not even talking about Toronto or Greater Toronto market. You have to be fully informed about that specific neighborhood that the subject property is located. Okay? We are not talking very general. We have to get very laser focused on that property and surrounding area, immediate surrounding area. The more you're informed about the area, the area that the subject property is located, the more confident you will be, and you will be in a much better position to advise your client when you're aware of what is going on in the surrounding area. With Toronto Real Estate Board's Toronto MLS, it is very easy. All you have to do is spend some time and prepare a proper CMA. When I say CMA, it's not on the paper. You have to digest the information and feel confident as if you're selling your own home. How much will you list that property? Instead of trying to convince yourself on the paper. And we will discuss how to do that. So yes, if you prepare a proper CMA, because remember, at the end of the day, the potential seller, all they're looking at is that you will be in a position to sell their property at the highest price possible. Don't you think it is all about money at the end of the day? So they want to get the highest price possible. So if you're confident about your CMA, if you have digested the information about that general area, or sorry, a specific area that the subject property is located, you will be in a good position to convince the seller to list it at the market price. And we will discuss about those things. I think your confidence will go to zero. And I think confidence is the key, because people will not list their property with someone they like. Sometimes in some cultures, people feel obligated to list with some people. For example, let's say, I don't know, somebody is obligated to list with their brother-in-law because they're part of the family and they will hurt his feeling or something like that. In some cultures, that might happen. But in general, people want to list with agents that they know that they will get them the most money possible. It boils down to money, okay? So, and I think they want to feel confident in that person. It is not about they don't like you. There is nothing personal about this. They want to get the best possible. And in order to get confidence, you have to have as much information as possible about the subject property and the surrounding houses that are sold as recently as 3 months and as far as 18 months ago. Because you know, people might say, a property might have sold last year. The seller might come and say, you know what, that property across the street was sold few months ago. Because in their mindset, it is few months ago, but it was last year. And they will say how much that property was sold. If you're not sure and if you don't have answer for that question, trust me, your confidence level will go down because you don't know what's going on. And their confidence in you will go down. You will be not in good situation if a client asks you about a property across the street and you don't know what happened. Not only how much it was sold, but what was the price and what was the size and was there any upgrades. You have to be fully informed about the properties that were sold in that area. So that's why listing presentation, if you're just jumping into your car right away trying to go for a listing presentation, 100% you're not prepared, no matter how experienced you are in that market. Okay? So that's why you should prepare yourself for that. And I think, as I was trying to mention, you should go back as 18 months ago. And all this information doesn't have to be on paper, but you should be informed. People sometimes have misconceptions. A property might have sold a couple of years ago, but they are thinking it was just sold few months ago. But still, if they ask you a question about property, you should know what's going on. I think one of the things that I used to do, and I still do if I go for a listing presentation, for sure I will go and look at the properties that are on the street or in very close proximity to the subject property before going to the listing presentation, because you want to know who is your competition. And by the way, on record, I want to say that your price should always be lower than the competition. If you're going to list at average price on average market value, your property will not sell. There has to be something special about your property. So you cannot list it at market value. It has to be lower than your competition. Okay, so that's why you have to look at the properties that are on the market right now. So I think that's why when you're trying to compare, you have to compare the size of the property, the upgrades, the style of the house, and the location of the house. And you should be fully informed to say, for example, we are going to list your property 10,000 lower because there are 2 kitchens in the other property, or because the location of that property is closer to something, to transportation. You have to have all the good reasons when you're trying to compare. I think by now you must have noticed that I have shifted your mindset from trying to sell yourself to just specifically focusing on CMA. Because in listing presentation, all that matters for a seller is the CMA. Okay, and the more time you prepare yourself for that CMA, the better job you will do. Instead of having tens of slides about talking about yourself and you're number one and you're the best and all those good things which are important, as I said, you're going to do that before going to their house. Because if you do this first, they will try to find weaknesses. It's very natural. Psychologically, it is proven that when you're talking good about yourself, you have to let other people talk about you. But if you're trying to talk about yourself, people always try to find weakness in you. So when you go to a listing presentation, if that happens, that's what's going to happen. So I think what we have discussed so far is the gist of my presentation. This was a little bit of background. We will go in a more detail, and I will walk you through step by step how to do this. But I wanted to give you a little bit of idea as what is my perspective about listing presentation. I think you can try both. If you're a very active agent, let's try both. You go to one presentation and try to sell yourself and do it traditionally that 99.9% of agents do, which is, they sell themselves, they have fancy listing presentations. Go with that option, and you should have it. And I will give you the listing presentation that is already done for you by Homelife, and all you have to do is just change your information. And then you can go with this option and look at your confidence level when you go with this option. And look how genuine you will look and how natural you will look. Because in any conversation, the more natural we are, the better results we can get. Okay? Okay. So when market is good, this is what listing agents do. And that's why we call the 3 Ps of listing agent. And this is how, when I was not an agent, my dad's friend sold our house about 15 years ago. Actually, he did not even put a sign in our yard. Hi, morning. So all we do is just put it on MLS and sit at home and pray in our basement in a dark place. That's what agents do. Most of the agents, this is what they do. They just put a sign and they put it on MLS, and then they sit down and pray. And they wait that this property hopefully will sell. These are the 3 Ps. These are the traditional 3 Ps of selling a house. I'm not sure how much you're following the Toronto real estate market. Even in this hot market today, between 42 to 44% of houses that come into the market sells. So that means more than half of the properties expire, okay, or terminated or suspended or whatever. They do not sell. And this is a hot market, by the way. In US, in some markets, it is 7 times. That means out of every 7 houses, only 1 house sells. Here in Toronto, we are still lucky that out of almost sometimes every 3 houses, it depends on the neighborhood too, by the way. In some neighborhoods, it could be out of every 5 houses, only 1 house sells. But we are talking about, these are the stats that we have from Toronto Real Estate Board, that only between 42 and 44 houses sell when it comes to the market, okay? And that's a very good number, by the way. And as the market will shift, this number will go higher. So it might be out of every 3 houses. And as I said, even now in some neighborhoods, it might be out of every 4 houses, only 1 house sells, okay? So if you're not doing a good job, and if you're just following those 3 Ps that traditionally agents have done, just put a sign, put it on MLS, and pray. If you follow that pattern, you most probably will be part of those 50 or 60% that they do not sell the house. And I think if the market shifts, you have to be prepared. I mean, we're not going to do this presentation every week. You have to keep in mind that you have to be prepared for a market if the economy shifts or if the real estate market shifts. I think this spring will be one of the most crucial spring markets for real estate, because there is a huge debate where the Canadian and in general, but Toronto real estate market is heading. There is a lot of conflicting analysis. Some people say it is going to go high. Some people are going to say it's going low, and especially the negative side or the pessimistic side is also considering the Canadian GDP is slowing down from 2.5 or 2.2% to 1.5%, and they list a lot of reasons. But I think wherever the economy shifts, there is always houses that are going to sell. Right now, there is approximately 8,000 to 9,000 houses that are selling in Toronto market. In a slow market, it might be 6,000, 7,000. It will not be that it will come to zero. It depends which part of the market you are. When I started my first year in real estate, you will not believe it. In our office, January, especially, I'm not talking about January in these recent years. 10 years ago, January was really January. It was a cold time, and people were in houses. I was the highest producer in my first year in January in my office out of 185 agents. So it is all about your mindset and how hard you want to work, how committed you are. It's not about the timing of the market or timing of the year. It's about your mindset. I think in this presentation, we're trying to prepare you that even if the economy shifts, this will work for you, because you're not just going to sit down and pray that hopefully your listing is going to sell. So the new 3Ps, actually before going to the new 3P, there is also a 4th P. So if the property doesn't sell, the sellers will hate you, but you go and approach them and say, I want to do the price reduction. So put a sign, put it on MLS, pray, and then if it doesn't happen, you go and reduce the price. And by reducing the price, by the way, we have discussed about this in previous sessions, that most activity in a house listing is within the first couple of weeks. After that, it slows down. If you can't sell a property within a month, after that, even if you reduce the price, it will not work as to the best interest of you and your client as if you have listed that price in the beginning. So instead of reducing the price, you should do a proper CMA and list it at the right price. So if you're getting all these listings and you're not selling, it is not only you're not making money, you're also losing money, because you will pay for the sign, you might pay for the lockbox, you will waste your time. It is not about, some agents' strategy is to get more listings, but if you're not going to sell those listings, you will not also have a good track record, right? So let's discuss what are the new 3Ps of getting listings sold. Before I continue, is there any question? Are we good so far? How many of you agree with the way we are going? It's good? Yes?
No, I'm agreeing.
Oh, good.
How many agree?
Yeah. And those of you that are watching us online, if you type your question, there is a chat box at the bottom of the website, and Nilo will get those questions for me. So once again, where you're watching, at the bottom, you have the option to ask your questions. Okay, so the new 3Ps, of course, you have to be working a little bit more, but it is more effective. It means the properties will sell and you will have more fun. Okay, so the new 3Ps are prepare the relationship, prepare the product. So this is about your relationship with the seller. This is about the property, the subject property, and then we are going to discuss what we have to do to put it on the market. In your opinion, out of these 3Ps, which one do you think is the most important? Relationship. Anyone else want to
Second.
Preparing the house? Anyone else? Well, all three are important, but which one is the most important? Okay. Let's see. because this is what we have mostly ignored, not preparing the house for sale. This preparing the house for sale is the most important part, but what we think is, most of us think that the third P, which is, marketing, is the most important. We think the more we advertise, we have more websites. Trust me, if your property is priced good and if it looks good, it will sell right away. Within a week, most properties, no matter in what market, whether it is slow market or peak market, no matter in what market, any property will sell in any market, in any time of the year, if it is priced well and if it looks good. Okay? Well, does that surprise you? For those of you that, a couple of you that say that preparing the house is important, otherwise, did it surprise you? Okay. So I think because the second one is the most important, which is preparing the house for sale, you have to make the seller as part of your team, because they are the people that are living in the house. They will be people that will be preparing the house for showing. Okay, although at the beginning you can help with maybe renovations, or you can help with advising them for staging, but at the end of the day, it boils down to those sellers. So that's why having a good relationship, because sellers are part of your team. If they do a good job preparing the house will sell itself. So that's why we're going to talk about preparing the relationship. But so why is it important? I think I already talked about this, because they're your partner in selling the house. They are the only people that will look at the condition of the house, especially families that have kids, because those of you that have kids, you know that the house is messy all the time, 24/7, right? So you need their help to keep the property in a condition that the potential buyers will walk in and like the house. So I think, as we were talking earlier, if you're going with that genuine, sincere advisor role, you are trying to convince your seller that you're caring about this property to sell at the highest price possible, as much as they care. And you're going with that intention, so that's why you will have confidence, and you're going to convince them that they will be part of your team. But I think this is the biggest problem that most agents face. So we were talking about one issue, which was this, but I think getting into their house, or even sometimes before getting into their house, their first question is, how much is your commission? Okay? And I think commission is the biggest objection, because that will be the first question they will ask, especially in today's market, because of lots of competition, especially in some neighborhoods. This issue of commission is even more upfront issue than any other market. But so the two issues that will potentially jeopardize your relationship with the seller is the listing fee, which is your commission, and how much is the market value. Because these are the two main areas that sellers have objection. How much are you charging? And they want to argue with you. And of course, the property value, because you might think that it is $500,000, but in their head they have made up their mind that it is $550,000. So those are the two main areas that agents have challenge dealing, and that's where the relationships get jeopardized. We will talk about the second one later, but about the fee, I think most of the seminars that you have been so far, and most of real estate gurus, I would say all of them that I know, have advised you to delay this your commission fee to the end, and try to avoid it, or try to somehow handle it so that you don't talk about it up front. But I think I'm talking from experience. When you go to a listing presentation, and at the back of your client's mind is the commission issue, and at the back of your mind there is commission issue, you don't feel comfortable and they don't feel comfortable in you. Because whatever you're talking about, they will think that you are trying to sell your commission. Remember, we are trying not to be a salesperson when we walk into their house. So in my opinion, from my experience, I will disclose my commission right away up front. If my commission is 5%, I will just tell them up front, this is my commission. So we are not, this is not a concern when I go to their house. When I'm at the listing presentation, we are not talking about commission. Because if commission becomes an issue, your client will not listen to you. They think that you have a hidden agenda and to discuss about your commission. And if they have asked you that commission issue and you have not resolved it, they want to get that issue answered first before listening to you. Okay? So that's why whatever your commission is, just disclose it up front. This is my commission so that we can get over it. This, I think it boils down to two things. You want to feel confident, and the second thing is that you're genuine. So you're genuine and sincere, but when you have conflict of interest, such as your commission, you cannot be 100% genuine in your advising. Okay? We are trying to avoid to be a salesperson. We are trying to get an advisory role here. Okay? So that's why I would rather disclose my commission right away up front, so that this is not an issue in our conversation. Okay? As I was trying to talk, we are just a professional. We are here to advise. We already know how much I'm going to charge. I think if you can imagine walking into a bank, if they're selling you a product that they're getting commission on, you're not going to trust them 100%, right? But rather, if you're going to walk into a bank and they're selling you a service that you already know how much they're going to charge, whatever they're going to say, you will trust them and you will believe them, because you will know that they don't have any conflict of interest in what they're discussing. You're getting my point, right? So if you can imagine yourself in seller's shoes, that if the issue of commission is in their head, they will always try to think that you're not, whatever you're saying, it is not an advice, but rather you're trying to convince them of your commission. I think we have talked about this enough, that you're not there to sell, but rather this is a consultation. They have to look at you as a consultant, as a professional, as an advisor. This is a huge mind shift. We're discussing this in this room and online, maybe with a total of 50, 60 people. Other than that, I think 33,000 or 35,000 agents, most of them, it will be very hard to convince them about this, not to be a salesperson, but rather be a consultant, okay? Whenever, wherever you're genuine, people will listen to you and hear what you're saying. Do we all agree so far?
What if somebody says, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to take that 2.5 or 5% commission? Would you just, how do you explain it to them? Would you have your objection?
Yes, I think what most real estate gurus will teach you is that they will say, well, some of them will say that this is my commission and next. You know, so what is the next issue? They move on to the next issue. I think I will also handle it somewhat in that way, that, you know, this is my commission, I'm firm about it and I'm confident about it, let's move on. I think talking of commission, let me give you examples. I have a very successful friend, he's also a real estate agent. Actually, he's #1 in the world selling condos, downtown condos. I think you met him, right? Yes, yeah. So I think when I was talking to him, how people approach him, he was saying that at the end of the day, if they're confident in you, they don't care about the commission because they know they can get the best service from you, right? But if they don't have confidence in you, of course the issue of commission will come. And even if your commission is 5%, if you come down to 4 or 3 or whatever your commission might be, if they are still not confident in you, they will not give you that listing because you have offered them 3%. You have to trust me about that. They will not give you that listing because you're offering 3.5% or 3%. Okay, so I think it is time for agents that they have to shift their focus and they have to bring that confidence in themselves so that they give this image that I'm charging this much, this is my service fee. I'm not saying how much it should be, it is your business how much you want to charge them, but whatever you're charging, just say it confidently and get over it. Okay, it's not a matter of discussion. Yes?
But if you've gone into a listing and they've spoken to other agents, and you're saying 5, and the other agent said 3, and they're just as good, by the time you say what your commission is, they're not listening to the rest of what you have to say.
Yeah, I think it depends on your business model, right? So, for example, if you're an agent that says, you know what, I will charge 5% regardless, because I have certain expenses, I have a family to run, so I will charge 5%. But then if your strategy is that you will charge 3%, for example, because you want to beat the competition, I'm not saying how much you should charge, or you should charge lower or higher than the other agent, but whatever you're going to charge, just say it up front and say, this is my charge, and confidently this is my charge, I'm not going to negotiate. And that's it. Let's move on to the next topic. If you come across very confidently, whatever you're charging, they will trust you. You will build confidence. Okay? So I'm not saying that you should not compete. I'm not setting a standard or a price here, how much you should charge. Whatever you're charging, just get over that conversation as soon as possible, because you're going to jeopardize the relationship. You guys are getting the difference, what I'm trying to say, right? Whatever it is, just be upfront about it. So the second issue is the market value. Those of you that are experienced in this room, and I mean, I'm sure those of you that are online, I know that most of you are experienced. You understand that these two issues, the commission and how much my property is worth, is the most conflicting issues when you're meeting with your client. They are going to argue mainly about these two things with you. So if you're going to get over the commission, now we have to discuss how to get over this. The second potential confrontational conversation, which is about the market value of your property. So I think that is the biggest question, and I think so far, if you have noticed, the main focus of this listing presentation is also about that CMA, or the market value. Okay, so let's walk through this, because I think talking about commission is easy. My commission is 5% or 4% or 6%, whatever commission is, there is not much detail to it, right? But I think when it comes to CMA, I think there is detail, and you have to convince them. So you should have a very detailed CMA, as we were talking about. You have to go as far as 18 months of the similar properties, or even not similar properties, properties in general that were sold within that close proximity of the subject property. Okay? I think I'm repeating myself, but your whole listing presentation is focused on CMA. The more informed you're about the subject property and other properties in the area, the more confident you will be. So you should have a detailed, but also you should have a summary version. So the detailed version is, for example, if there were 10 houses that you're comparing, you should have full listing. I think print all those 10 listings, have full detail, and then find out as much as possible information, whether they were upgraded or what was the main difference. Maybe the location was different, okay? If you come across the table with a potential seller, if you tell them, for example, you know what, that property sold higher because if you're in that property, you can go to that school, and that school is ranked #1 in Ontario. Do you know how informed you will look in front of them, and how much they will trust you by you advising them? But if you just go and say, oh, that property across the street sold higher, but I don't know why it sold higher, or your reasons are very weak. You know, if you're informed, and if you found out that that property was sold because people that are living, it is within that boundary of school system that we have in this region, because of that boundary, those houses can go to that school, but your house is outside that boundary, so you have to go to this #2 school, right? So for that reason, that school is more expensive. And I think that's why we always advise that you should be focusing in one neighborhood, because it will be very hard to be a listing agent for the whole Toronto area. I think if you're focusing to be a listing in one area, you will be more successful, because you will be more informed, you will read more about that area, and you know what is going on in that area. So I think the way we are going to handle it is that you're going to hand over your CMA to the client without analyzing. You're not going to do the analysis. Give it to them and let them do the analysis, okay? But you should be prepared to answer questions, and this information comes when they ask you why that property sold higher than mine. Then you have the information, which is because the school was there, okay? Because, you know, when you go to a listing presentation and you're showing them these 10 houses and you say, oh, after looking at these 10 houses, I came to a conclusion that your property should be listed at X amount, they will think, and again, they will get confrontational. You would rather want to give them all those listings and then say, looking at these listings, how much do you think your property is worth? Most of the time, if you give them chance, they will come to some number, okay? And if you're going to be the person that's going to give them that bad news because they have set their mind that, for example, their property is worth 10% more than what the market value is, if you're going to be the person to tell them, they will not feel comfortable with you. They might look at you as an enemy. So you rather want them to tell you how much their property is worth looking at these prices. So yes, I think we have discussed about these points, that once you give them those CMAs or listings or whatever you have in your hand, information about properties that were sold in the close proximity of the subject property, if they come to some conclusion and if they do the analysis, if they ask you why that property sold higher and if you're informed, you will be in a much better position, and they will ask you as an expert why that property sold higher. Instead of you talking more, as I think I was trying to say this at the beginning of my presentation, that the less you talk, the better it is. The more they talk, the more successful you will be, okay? Well, we already said this. If they look at the information, I mean, looking at all the houses, because most of the time, well, this is unfortunate, but it's a fact that potential sellers are more informed about the surrounding area, how much those properties were sold, than the agent that is going for the listing. It is because it is their interest. They're thinking of their selling their house. For the past 6 months, they have been to open houses. They have followed MLS, so they know how much properties are sold. So when you give them that data, they will be reaching most of the time at a conclusion that will be close to market value. So I think this slide is trying to say that even if they don't reach at that conclusion, if you tell them the bad news about, well, it's not 550, the market value is 500, because they're looking at you as an expert, although they will be disappointed, but I think we all get over those bad news. The bottom line is that you have to make them part of your team from this point. Even at the listing presentation, they are going to give you, you know, the analysis of the data that you have provided. They are part of your team. I think it is very crucial that if you do this, preparing the relationship in a good, if the conversation is very natural, if the conversation goes with the flow, and if they feel confident in you, the other two P's will be very smooth and easy. So if we can summarize what we have discussed so far, preparing the relationship, you're mainly going to be, the main issues are about your commission and about the CMA, the price of their house. Of course, commission, as we said, it's very easy. We said, this is my commission fees and get over it. I think about CMA, the more they're involved, the more they are engaged in the conversation, the more they talk, and the less you talk, the better it is. But I think it boils down to this. Instead of spending your time on preparing fancy marketing material for a listing presentation, do that. I'm not saying you should not do that, but spend most of your time analyzing the properties that were sold in the immediate area of the subject property, because that is where the biggest issue for most agents are. If they are not, they can talk all good things about themselves, but they are not even informed that a property was sold a couple of months ago in the area, and they don't know what is going on. And most of the sellers are already informed, especially in today's age and time. They know what is going on. So when they tell you that property was sold a couple of months ago, what's the price? Or they know, you know the price, but they say, why was it sold higher or lower, or what's going on? And you don't have a strong answer, they will not feel confident in you. So spend as much as time possible preparing your CMA. So I think I told you this: if a property is priced well and it is presented good, that property will sell itself. I think no matter how much marketing dollars you spend on selling a property, if it is not presented well, if it doesn't look good, it will not sell. So talking of the price, I think when you're pricing the house after preparing your CMA, it should create a wow reaction. That means if other properties are, similar properties are listed at 520, for example, your property should be listed at 500. It has to create that wow factor, that people walk in, they're not going to say, oh, it is good, it looks good. When potential buyers walk in, it should not be just it is nice, it is wow. So I think coming to that CMA price and the market price of a property is not easy. It is not just about, you know, comparing the size and number of bedrooms and how, if the basement is finished or not, but it also has to do that. Okay. It comes with your gut reaction. Okay. Every house is different. All houses are not same. Even a house located right in beside each other, they are different. So I think it comes from your experience how much that property should be listed. Nobody can claim that they know the exact market price of a property. Okay? So I think price is important. But I think condition and accessibility, which we are going to discuss, the property should impress potential buyers from outside. If the doorknobs or garage doors are not good, if things are broken, I mean, people, when they just come out of their car, they have already prepared their mind if they're going to buy this house or not. If they have this negative impression from outside, they have already made up their mind that this is not my house. Okay? So outside is very important. Sometimes a house looks good and everything is good, but a garage door is broken, and the seller is not spending few $100s to fix that problem. I think we all know about this. If the carpet needs to be changed, if the property is, oh, thank you very much, Marcus. Thank you. So, oh, thank you. Oh, it's on the other side. Oh, am I going back or what? Yeah, okay. So if you can convince them that it is important that they have a good impression of the property from outside, inside, as we were discussing, they should be part of your team. I think we have to confidently convince them that a property should be in good condition in order to sell it. Oh, thank you. So I think here is another thing that most real estate agents should understand. As part of your team, I understand that some of you, for example, have a mortgage broker as part of your team, or maybe an inspector, but I think having a handyman is very important. If you list a property and the condition of the property is not good, it will be very difficult to sell that property, okay? So, and most people do not have good experience with handyman. Do we all agree? I think we have all tried, and it is very hard to find a good handyman. We are always nervous to deal with a contractor. And that's why most sellers do not want to take this on their shoulder to fix the small problems. And I think you as their advisor, I'm not going to call you as their sales representative, a good advice to be given is that most of the houses need some cosmetic renovation before putting it on the market. This is one of the best advice that agent can give to their potential sellers. One of the best advice. So, but they don't want to do this. They're afraid. But if you can refer them a handyman that they feel confident and they know that they're not going to rip them off, first of all, you will look like a hero to them because you found them this contact and you have given them this referral. But I think more importantly that property will sell. Okay, most properties are not selling. It is either the price or it is the condition of the house. Those are the only two main reasons. Of course, there is one more reason that we are going to talk, which is accessibility, but mainly those are the two main reasons. Okay, so if I want to be a good listing agent, I will always have a handyman, at least one, if not more, as part of my team. But it is very difficult to find a good contractor. You have to test and try to see if you can find one. It is not easy to find a good contractor. Most of them, because the nature of their business is that they get a business and then they start your business and then they move on to get another one, and then they have like 3, 4, 5 contracts on their hand at the same time. But they don't want to lose those opportunities, and that's why there is always delay, and their quotes are always not very close to what they have quoted. So, but I think if you find a good handyman and somebody that can clean their house, this is the best advice that you can give them. Okay?
What if the office finds somebody to do a job for the agents in the office?
Sorry?
If the office could find a good handyman,
right,
for all of us?
Oh, there is one we have. You can ask Nilo. Yeah, you can ask Nilo. Yeah, go ahead.
And the price that the handyman will charge them, it maybe would be, discussion with them too.
Right.
And how they, may pay them in front, or, this is something that I have this problem right now with my seller, because they think that my handyman is without seeing that what kind of job they are offering them, and they don't want to pay in front. They want to pay after selling the house. And I told that if we cannot sell the house, or the listing expires or something like that, then what will happen?
I think that's a very tough question to answer. But in general, most cosmetic renovation will not cost you more than a couple of thousand. Most of them. Most of the things in a house can be fixed within a couple of thousand. Of course, there might be houses that you need 5, 6, or 10,000 or 20,000, but most of the time it is only within a couple of thousand, which should not be hard for most house owners to arrange for a couple of thousand. But I think if you have a good relationship with the handyman, they might do something that you give their payment later. I mean, you can make arrangements with a handyman. But one of the best advice that any agent can give to most sellers is to fix their house. Most of the time, houses are not selling because it's in need of repair or in paint, or just a cosmetic renovation makes a huge difference. That is the best investment instead of finishing their basement, because I can tell you finishing the basement will not have the highest return. You will be lucky to get back whatever you have spent in your basement. But if you spend on cosmetic renovations, you will get back multiple times. Your property will sell faster and it will sell higher. So I think you have to request the seller that these are some of the things that she or he should do or they should do. That these are important ones. Of course, there is a long list, but these are the most important things that they should do. Are the sellers are agreeing to not be in the house when potential buyers come? I know most of the listings that you go right now, the sellers are at home. But if you have taken enough buyers, you can share this experience with me and you agree with me that the buyers do not feel comfortable being in the house. They think that they're occupying someone else's space. They want to get out of that house as soon as possible because the people are nice. Most people are nice and they think they're disturbing other people's life. So let me get out of this house as soon as possible. If they don't spend enough time in the house, they probably will not buy that house, okay? So you have to somehow convince them, but I think you have to be very careful because some sellers, if the other agent do not show up, they might get upset. So you have to be very clear in your message, showing instructions that if you're showing this property, please be on time. If you're late or if you're canceling, inform me as much as possible. Give me as much notice as possible. The other one is some clients require, give me 4 hours notice, or I will show the next day, or 24-hour notice. Of course, if this is a tenanted property, it is different, but try to convince them that sometimes, clients are within the same neighborhood and with their agent, and they want to see this house. They have seen 5 houses, and this was the only one that they didn't see, and they want to see right when they're in that neighborhood. Try to convince your seller that within a short notice they should show the house. Of course, the house should be prepared all the time. If you do a good job working with your client, if the property looks good, if the price is good, this trouble is only for 2 weeks. A good property for sure in any market will sell within 2 weeks. It should not take longer than 2 weeks to sell a good price, good condition property. Okay, if a property is taking longer than 2 weeks, there is something wrong. So that's why if you have to convince your client confidently that if we can work together, this trouble is just for you to go out, for you to arrange within short notice, or maybe take this 2 weeks for a vacation or something. This 2 weeks of trouble is all you're asking them, okay? Of course, you're not guaranteeing anything. You're not promising that the house will sell for 2 weeks. But if you do a good job, the property should sell within a couple of weeks. Well, some people are still smoking in front of their kids and babies in the house. So, but in general, they should not be smoking in the house because some people don't like that smell. Even if the house looks good, they will not buy it. I think a stager plays a big role. Of course, it depends. Some houses you go, they are in such a good condition that the people that are living, they have a good taste, they have good couch, they have good, everything is nice. Maybe you don't need a stager. But there are houses that people need to rearrange things, maybe get some new things to make the property look good. In this industry, real estate agents, they say buyers' brains are in their eyes. People, when they see something, they like it and then they buy it, okay? So, yes?
Are the brand new houses need home staging?
Yes, yes. Instead of being a vacant house, you want to make them feel that how this house will look. Although some people have come with this new idea for the past few months, it's called virtual staging. I don't know if you have heard about it. So basically, there are companies that take these vacant houses, especially condominiums. Staging a condominium is even harder because you have to arrange with the elevator and management to take stuff up and take stuff down. It's not easy. So some companies have come up with much less price. You can do virtual staging, which is they take the size of each room and then they have these furniture virtually. So before people coming to the house, they can kind of see how the property will look. There is still a debate if that's a good idea, but that instead of spending $1,000 or $2,000, you can spend much less and do that too. That's one option. By the way, we have an in-house staging, and unfortunately that lady today is the only day that she's not here. We have an in-house staging company. Their prices are really good. I talked to them. I think they start from $600. They have their own furniture, so that's why their prices are good. They have their own furniture. I think they have a warehouse, and they have an office here. Yes?
Question. What happens then when you're staging the house?
Yeah.
Or if you're cleaning up their house, and they have so much furniture, so much stuff?
Yeah.
Either you're going to fill up the garage, or you're going to fill up the basement, and whoever buys it, they're going to go in and they can't see the garage, or they can't see the basement because it's filled up with their stuff. So what should you do in that
The
case?
best advice will be if they agree with you to take it to a storage. And it is not very expensive to take it to a storage. I mean, it's a matter of a month or two or so. It will cost them a couple of hundred or so. It's not very expensive. Yes, the moving cost might be expensive, or they have to throw it. A lot of things that we have in our houses are crap, but we just have fallen in love with them. They say if you're trying to clean your house, look at things that you have not used for the past 6 months. This is just a rule of thumb. If you have not used it for the past 6 months, the chances of you using it again is very low. So just throw it, or sell it, or put it on Kijiji if you can sell it, or whatever. But I think you're right. The less things we have around the house, in the basement or in garage, the better it is. Yeah. So either a storage or throw it or sell it. Because if you have not used it for the past 6 months, probably you will not use it again. But we are just thinking one day we might use this. It's occupying a space. Can you believe it that most of these storage companies, people have things in them. They never come to check it. They never use it. They pay a lot of money on that storage. And for months and years, those things are in those storages and people don't even use them. It's not, I mean, that storage business, most of their business is run by these people. The people that have like so many things in their garages are now filled. They took it to storage. They never use it, but they pay money just to save it. And it's not worth anything too. Okay, so I think before getting to the third P, which will take only 5 minutes, we're almost done. I think if I may summarize so far, the purpose of you having a good relationship with your seller is that they will be part of your team. That's it. I think you want them to be part of your team. There is 2 issues that will create some conflict between you and your seller, and those 2 issues are all about money. It is either the money for how much the house is worth or your commission. With the commission, it is very easy. Confidently, this is my commission. Let's move on to the next topic. About the value of the house, prepare yourself 100%. Okay? So if you have a good relationship, if they feel confident in you, you want them to be part of your team so that they keep the house in good condition. Always remember, a good house sells not because you have done a good marketing. A good house sells because you have priced it well and it looks good. That's it. Okay, because marketing is, I think MLS have done such an amazing job for all of us. I know that we pay a lot of the strip fees and RICO fees and CREA fees or whatever fees we pay as part of our being as part of this industry, but they have done such an amazing job that if you have a good property and a good price, the system itself will sell it. Okay? So our MLS system is so effective that some people say 85, some people say 95% of houses are sold through MLS. Okay, the 85% is probably because of the other agent brings the buyer, but the 95 is mainly because overall the public MLS.ca, those are the most well-known established systems. If you prepare a good property, other than just putting it on MLS and having access to that property, so that with short notice and good condition and whatnot, you don't have to do anything else. Okay, so that's why you have to convince the other agents to just look at your property, and the best thing to do for that is to have some good pictures, virtual tours. Okay. So if the property is priced well, if the property looks good, if you have taken good pictures from that property, if you have it on MLS, your property will sell within a couple of weeks. There is not much else to do.
Do you have any company which do virtual tour you would recommend?
This company that we have in-house, they're also doing virtual tour and they're doing pictures.
Yeah, some of
I don't know if that's that. I don't know what's the.
I just don't know if I'm able.
Oh yeah, maybe it's that company then.
Yeah, some of the virtual tour are not exactly virtual tour. It's just a slide of the picture, which is very disappointing.
Yeah. Well, I have never used their services. There is another company called OBO. Their main headquarters are in Ottawa, but they have representatives across Canada. So the way they work is they have one office somewhere in Ottawa, and they have talked to these photographers across the country, and then they call them and then they assign them the job. It's a good system they have. It's called OBO, OBEO. Oh yeah, that's if you just OBO, if you type it on Google, it will come up. But you can also give a try. I think because part of the staging company is that they also include the virtual tour. So with a good price and accessibility, and if you have I mean, it is crucial that you have accurate and appealing MLS, because you want to give as much detail as possible in that remarks section. Take full advantage of it. By the way, remarks are 3 sections, right? It is for the client, and then it says any additions that you provide, and then broker's remarks. Remember, the broker's remarks never appear on MLS.ca. It doesn't come up on the public side. So whatever good things that you're talking about the house, it should be in the first 2 remarks, okay? You know what I'm talking about, right? On your form, there are 3 sections. If you do all these things, what else do you have to do for the marketing? You don't have to do anything. See, most agents spend a lot of money. They think their houses are selling because they do a very aggressive marketing. They advertise in papers and they do all kinds of things. Those are not selling the house. You know why they're doing it? Because they want to. Sorry?
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
They know they do it because someone is gonna call them, but usually the house is for a long time sold, and it's just to capture, that.
Yes, that exactly.
Leads.
It is either to get leads or it is to make the seller happy, because the seller will ask you, my property did not sell. Did you have an open house? Where did you advertise? Advertisement, open house, all those things are to just for your benefit to get leads. Only less than 5% of houses are sold through those marketing. Whatever marketing you're doing, like internet or paper or open house, those will generate leads for you, but it will only can make the seller happy. But of course, I'm not saying that you should not do all these things. Actually, in a couple of months, I think in June, sometime mid-June, we're talking about how to do effective open houses. I'm not saying that you should not do this, but you should know that most of these activities will not sell the house. What sells the house is the price of the house and condition of the house. And then the third one is accessibility. It means the sellers are willing to show it with short notice, anytime. They are not rejecting people. They're not saying, oh, this is weekend, I'm busy, or my kids are sleeping at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, so I cannot show it. They have to accommodate and sacrifice for a couple of weeks. That's it. It is just a matter of couple of weeks. If a house does not sell within a month, there is for sure something wrong. Either the price is wrong or the condition is wrong. If those two things are not wrong, then there is the accessibility issue. Maybe agents cannot get into the house because the seller is rejecting them or the lockbox is a problem. It is accessibility. Other than that, in any market, in any condition, any house will sell within a couple of weeks if it is priced right. Any questions? We are at the end of our, yes?
Do you think that for the marketing, it's a good idea that for those brokerage around in the neighborhood, they send them email or inform them in a way that the house is in the market, especially?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and that question was asked here. So how do you reach the real estate agent community? Mm-hmm. You reach them with these things. If it is priced right, if it is accessible, okay, and if you have good photos, because I shared with you, I think you were not here a couple of weeks ago, that you generate 3 times more traffic when you have good pictures for a house. If a house does not have pictures, people will avoid showing those houses. You will reduce your potential buyers 1/3. So from 100%, it reduces to 30%. Only 30% of agents will show a house with no picture because they don't want to get into a house that they don't know what's going on. They don't want to get themselves into unknown. When I started, one of my clients actually I lost at the beginning because I was not lucky. It was my first day. I was showing like these 5 houses. Almost all the 5 houses either smelled bad or they had dog or the kids were messing around with the house or there were holes in the wall. So then at the end of the day, the guy said, you know what, you're not experienced. You're not sure what kind of good houses to show me. Whereas, I mean, of course I was new, but I learned my good lesson. But I think at that time there were not too many pictures. How do I know how the houses are looking? What I should have done, and most agents do now, that they go and inspect the property before taking their client, especially for sure for your high-end class. If a property is more than 1 million, you should always spend the time and go inspect the property. I mean, inspecting, not inspection, I mean going and viewing the property. It is called the buyer inspection, agent inspection. When you book the appointment, of course, you have to be clear that you're just yourself going to inspect the property. If a property is a high value property, I would say for any property, but for sure you have to do for high-end properties. Because people will think that you're not experienced. They will blame you for it. So when I started, one of my first clients I lost for that very reason, that I was not lucky, and the first day all the houses I showed, they were all crappy houses. There was something wrong with it. So the guy said, you know what, maybe you don't have access. I remember exactly what you said. Maybe you don't have access to good properties because you're a new agent. I said, yeah, you're right.
So if the house is crap or something wrong with the house, so what's the solution? You have to tell the listing agent that this issues is with the house and it's not looking good, so I cannot have a showing or what?
Well, I will come back to your question, which I will connect it with this. If a property has pictures, and that's why most agents, as I said, only 30% of agents show a property without pictures because they don't want to get into an unknown world. They don't know what's going on. So if a property has picture, at least they have some feeling of how the property looks, right? I'm not saying that it will be 100% true, but at least some feeling. But I think coming to your question, if you're already in the house and if the property doesn't look good, there is not much you can do. Unless the agent had some misleading information, then that is different. But most of the properties, if you walk in, and I have walked into the houses, you will not believe it. It had like dark stains all over the walls, and kids had their hands all over the wall, and it was really messy. And and I mean, another thing that I forgot to say, that sellers should never cook when there is a showing time. That might smell good for you, but not for everyone. You know, you might like your cooking, but not everyone, not necessarily everyone. Yes, David.
Speaking of pictures, I've seen some properties with pictures on MLS, but the pictures are clearly stretched horizontally.
Yeah.
And they look the property as if it's bigger.
Yeah.
Right? And I followed that particular agent and saw all his listing, and I see the pattern that he's doing this in all his listing properties. Is this false advertising, or if it's not, or?
Well, there is a debate. Not only that, let me go a little bit further. Some of these panoramic view that some special cameras take, right? So you stand at the corner of a room, and then you take a picture. It makes the room look so big, and that is a true picture. There is no stretch, and everything is just what they have taken the picture. Some people even argue that that is unethical. So there is a debate. There is no case, because in our industry, as you know, these cases go to RICO, and then RICO decides, and then it becomes kind of as part of our, whether it is or not unethical or misleading information. So I can't say much about that. But I think if someone intentionally stretched or photoshopped or things like that with a picture, I would think it is misleading. Yeah.
I don't think most often it's done intentionally.
Yeah.
Because when you upload a picture to Trev, depending if the size of your original picture, if you try to make it too small, wherever it is, it's automatically going to
Stretch. That's also true.
So
Yes.
It's not that somebody's doing it intentionally.
Yeah.
If it's Photoshop, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But if you're just uploading pictures, you're getting the size wrong because half the time you don't know what size of they want or if
Yeah.
they allow. Because I've seen a lot of my listings, the pictures sometimes get stretched or whatever. That's why I always have the attachments. You just download the originals, the big quality ones, and everything else.
That's a good point. So if it is proven to be intentional, then it could be argued that it is misleading.
The folder, presentation folder, how do you deliver before you have the first meeting with the
Okay,
seller?
yeah.
By mail, you select it, I mean, a little bit of
Yeah.
first
Well, hopefully you will get time to come to the first Saturday of next month. That's when we are going to discuss about this. But see, this is how we are going to do listing. If someone calls you today and say, I want to list my property, for sure, you're not going to go now. You're not going to book the appointment now. Even if they tell you, I want to see you now, you say, I have my scheduled book. Although if you're watching Facebook or whatever you're doing in your basement, still you will lie. That's good. So you will say, I will meet you tomorrow evening. Always try to book the appointment for the next day around 6:30ish, because the ideal time to contact your client, whether in person or on the phone, is sometime between 6:30 and 7:30. If you want to stretch it, it is 6 to 8. That is that after 8, some people have kids that they sleep, and before 6 is just they have come from work. So, but ideal time is 6:30, 7:30. If you book an appointment for 6:30 for the next day, so now today before 5 o'clock, wherever they're living, you're going to drop this package, but not only this package, as much as information you have, you insert it inside this and put it in an envelope, attention to the seller's name, and you will drop it in their mailbox. If they don't have a mailbox, just leave it at the door. Sometime before 5 o'clock, okay? Today, the day before the listing presentation. So that when they arrive home tonight after 5 o'clock, husband and wife or whatever the case might be, they go through your material. The point is that you want to impress them, okay? Just for dropping this so that you don't have to go to the listing presentation and you do this job. Let your material do the job. And that's why at the beginning I said, if you do this, half of the battle is done. You're not going to talk all good things about yourself. Now, sometime around 6:30 today, you're going to call them. And there are some pre-qualifying questions. And again, I cannot go into detail now. But basically, something like, when are you thinking of moving? Why are you thinking of moving? How much do you think your property is worth? What are the renovations or upgrades have you done since you bought the property? Then one of the crucial questions will be that if I come tomorrow and if I if we all agree with everything that I say, will we be able to list the property right tomorrow? And by the way, you're saying this because you want to show that you're not desperate. You're busy, you're scheduling your appointments, so you want to make sure that they're ready. Okay? Some of us, we are scared that if we ask these questions, they might say, don't come. Okay? I think the more you pre-qualify, the easier life you will have when you're in their house. Another crucial question is, who are the owners of the property? And by the way, before calling them, you will go on land registry system. I mean, those of you that you don't know, then we will talk about it in the first week of the month. But you will go on land registry system, and there it will tell you who are the owners of the property, who are registered on this title. So you will say, who is the owner of the property? You pretend that you don't know, right? And if they say it is just myself, then you just say, I just checked land registry, it shows your wife's name too. Because you don't want to go to a listing presentation where the husband or one of the spouses just called you and the other one is not there. Because you will not get the listing, and trust me, 99.9% of times, if you go to that listing presentation, if both decision makers are not there, the chances of you getting the listing is very, very low. Because it means one person is on your side and the other person is not. You want both of them to be on your side. So those are some of the pre-qualifying questions that you will do tonight, the day before the listing presentation, tonight at 6:30. And ideally, your appointment should be tomorrow at 6:30. Of course, this is very general. Some people have no job, they don't work, or they have their own business. So it works for them to be on Saturday morning, or it works for them to be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But generally, this is the process. It is a 3-step process. You drop the package, you pre-qualify by calling them, then you do the listing presentation. And before going for the listing presentation, tomorrow, the whole day you should spend doing a proper CMA. A proper CMA will not be done in few minutes. It will take hours. Because you will find the real reasons why that property across the street sold higher or lower. You want to find out. Maybe it was upgraded, or it was not in good whatever the case might be, you have to find out. You want to be fully informed about the surrounding properties for the past 18 months. So the only job that you're going to do at the listing presentation is CMA. That's it. Talking about CMA, you have digested all the information, you know what is going on in the neighborhood, and you know the reasons, at least from your perspective, you know the reasons why those houses sold for that price. Maybe the market was hot 6 months ago. You know what I'm saying? Maybe at that time there was a lot of multiple offers. Whatever the case might be, you have to dig in and find out. And it will take some time to prepare a proper CMA. And CMA is not something technical. We are not asking you to do anything technical. It is just spending more time understanding the different properties and their prices and why they sold or why they didn't sell. So it is a process, yeah. Otherwise, if you don't follow this process, if you just try to, get to the house as soon as possible, even they are not prepared to receive you. And for sure, you are not prepared. Yeah.
For a high-end property over $1 million, do you have to do something like more advanced, like by presenting the property?
I think if you follow these steps that I explained, before you going there, if you have any track record of selling or even buying $1 million homes, that's also fine. You should say in that brochure or in that material that you're going to drop at their house. Because remember, I'm trying to detach myself as much as possible, talking about myself when I'm in their house. That is my aim. Other agents, 99.9% of agents, their main goal is to go to the house and talk about themselves. I'm trying to detach myself and do this job as much as possible before going to their house.
But in some cases, like one lady asked, she wanted my bio, like what I did.
Yeah, that's why it is here.
So you have to talk about what you did, like you sold the property.
Yeah, in your package. Yeah. And that's why the first question when you're calling the day before, the first question is, have you received my package? And then just you will shut up and let them talk. They will say, yes, I received package. Oh, by the way, you sold that property. Oh, these are the things that you're going to do. And the questions, you're going to engage in a conversation. So your call might start at 6:30 and it might end at 7 o'clock. It might take half an hour to do that pre-qualification, because the type of questions that you're going to ask are not closed questions. The answers are not just yes and no. It has to be open-ended, asking their opinion, let them talk, give them the time to talk about your package, talk about why they're moving, let them do all those, connect them emotionally as much as possible over the phone. Yeah.
Before putting the package in your mailbox or at the door, do we have to talk to them to see that if they're interested to list the property or list with us, or no? Just with the expired listing or with the door knocking or something like that, we can understand that they want to sell the house and then put the package on their mailbox.
I think that's a totally separate issue. These are people that have shown interest. They have called you and say, please come and tell me how much my property is worth, or please come, I want to sell my property. For generating leads, it is a totally separate topic, and there are different issues that you have to do and different ways. And by the way, expired listing was allowed before, and now it is mostly not allowed until they consent on the form that you can contact them after the expired listing. Yeah.
So we already received the call?
Yeah, you have received the call, yes. Yes, Varun.
Okay, so I'm having trouble understanding what you mean by pricing it, right?
Yeah.
So because I'm focusing mainly on new homes.
Okay.
Areas as such have builders that have precedence over setting the market price, right?
Yeah.
And you said that if you list something at the market price, that doesn't give you any advantage.
Right.
So a buyer obviously wants something higher, right? So
Yeah.
you're conflicting on your own needs and what the buyer wants. So how do you solve that?
I'm trying to understand your question. So your question is that the builders already set the price and you cannot negotiate the price?
Okay, so if you look at a new community,
Right.
generic houses, new, and so they're similar in terms of what they offer, upgrades, floor plans. So how do you make it different in terms of price?
Okay, to compete with the existing ones, yeah. As I was trying to say, your property should be if everything is same and equal, your property should be listed a little bit lower. If your property is at the same price as everyone else, it will not sell within that couple of weeks that we were talking. I think you have to imagine when a buyer walks in, as I was trying to say in one of the slides, they should not say, wow, they should not say it is a nice house. They should say, wow, this is a really good house. If you create that wow feeling, then the property will sell. And the way that you can create that wow feeling, everything is about the price. So let's say if everything else they saw is in the 530 range, there were all nice houses, but your house is same house but at 510 or 505 or whatever, less than them, then they will say, wow, at the same price, but I can get a better house, same house. So, do you know what I'm saying? Yes.
Right. So how do you convince the sellers to what they do? Because they obviously want more than what the other house.
Yeah, I think the process that I was trying to explain, right? If you have that feeling of commission at the back of your mind, and that's why we are trying to shift our focus from being a salesperson to an advisor to a consultant. So when you come across as a confident consultant, you say, if you list with me, my advice is that everyone else is selling at 550, let's try 530. My advice is that you should renovate the house. My advice is that you should paint the walls. Or whatever you're going to say is as an advisor, as a consultant, to sell the property at the highest price with the least amount of time possible. So somehow, I will come to you, yes. Somehow you have to come across not as a salesperson, but someone that genuinely you're trying to help them. I'm sharing 10 years of my experience because I have been a salesperson with clients and it didn't work. I'm nervous, I make them nervous, they don't feel confident in me. They think I'm just doing it to get my commission as soon as possible. To be genuine, you don't have to do anything. Everything will come naturally, because just close your eyes and imagine as if this is your own house and you're selling your own house, and you want to give yourself the best advice possible. If you come from inside with that kind of intention, the other side will feel you. I mean, this might sound very vague and exaggerated, but trust me, that is the case, because I have been through both worlds. I have been a salesperson. I have been trying to be fake. I have been trying to sell myself, sell things, sell houses to them. But if you come very genuine and sincere and with the only intention and goal to help them, not only they will appreciate, this is the best way to get referrals. They will sell their house, they will sell their cousin's house with you, they will sell, the whole family will come to you, because that genuine feeling is something that it's a vibe that the other side receives. There are many books, by the way, written about this, about the positive thinking, creating positive vibes. And the best way to create that positive vibe across you is to have genuine thinking and intention. I mean, for some of you, this might sound really exaggerated, but that is the case. When you're genuine, you create confidence. And you create a very positive environment. And that's why they will listen to you. If you say, this is the price, and I have a genuine and sincere intention, this should be the price, then the chances of them listening and hearing what you're to you saying is higher than as if you come across as a salesperson. Because if you come across as a salesperson, they will not trust you. They think everything you're saying is just to sell the house and get your commission. If you tell them list at 5:30, they think that you're just trying to sell as soon as possible so that you can get your commission. Whereas if they have a feeling that you're their consultant, and that's why I said get rid of commission issue up front, so that you come across as a consultant, then they will try to hear you. Yes, sorry.
To go back to exactly what you were saying before, if you're doing resale, it's a different story. If you're doing new construction, it's pretty similar to what he's saying, that granted, if the houses are identical, same floor plan, same model, same everything else for the most part, and the builder's selling them for 530, if you try and convince your seller to sell them for 515, at the end of the day, sure, whoever's buying it thinks he's getting a deal. There's two ways of looking at it though. The seller doesn't have to accept the price, even if they come in at 515. So even if they've given you your asking price, the seller still doesn't have to accept the deal. Because in the back of the seller's mind, maybe he was hoping that by offering it for 10, 15,000 less, you have a multiple offer or something like that. But at the same time, then the seller's going to be a little bit upset, because if the same house is selling for $15,000 more, and it's the same condition as yours, why should he sell it for $15,000 less? Just to generate the traffic or to bring the people in? Because at the end of the day, he still has to pay your commission and pay your everything else as well. Because if it is a numbers game for dollars at the end of the day too, it makes it that much more difficult in this particular circumstance of new construction. Because I've come across the same problems in a lot of the new development areas as well.
Yeah, I think I will try to find that chart, but I will try to explain those two. I have two charts that are very crucial, exactly applies to your question, and I understand where you're coming from. So you asked me about the listing. It's part of the listing presentation, or ask Nilo to give it to you or mail it to you. But basically in that chart, there are stats that show if you list your property 10% higher than the market value. So let's say if it was 500 and you have listed at 550, you will lose half of the potential buyers. Okay, exactly half. These are stats that have been taken. That let's say if a property is at 550, and some people you say, you know what, let's list at 550 and I will sell it at 500. But just let's try. But by you just trying, you have lost half of your potential buyers. They will not even come to negotiate to 500. Okay, I'm coming to your point. Yes.
What you've also done is you've helped sell all the
other houses. Exactly. So coming to your point, if you list at exactly same price, you might get the average market potential. So if there are 100 people looking, all those 100 people will come to your house, right? But by you just reducing a little bit, so let's say from 530 to 515, you have increased from 100 to 150 potential buyers coming to your house. Okay, first of all, you have increased for sure the number of people coming to your home. The second chart, and again, these are numbers, it shows that the activities in the first 4 weeks of the listing is at its peak. And the chart shows that it sharply goes down at the 6th week here. It goes from here all the way here at the 6th week. So if we cannot sell your house within those 3-4 weeks, the first 3-4 weeks, then the chances of selling your house is very low. And these are the two reasons. And the third reason is that if everything else being equal, you're going to list your house same as the other ones. Why are we taking the risk if you're really serious to sell the house? Maybe they will select that house as opposed to yours. So let's go a little bit down, then the chance of your house selling comparing to the other houses will go much higher. So, and I have those charts to show you, but I think those are the points. Most activities are in the first 4 weeks of listing. After that, almost it dies down. I mean, if I wish I had that chart. It goes all the way from here, all of a sudden, just almost to zero. It is somewhere close to zero. The activity goes down. And the second one is that, you know, by you listing a little bit lower, you're going to increase the number of potential buyers that are in the market. But the third and most important one, you're not creating that wow factor. If it is a little bit lower, you're creating that wow factor, right? Because they will say, oh, everything else is equal, but this one is listed at 515, so wow, let's put an offer on this one. Yes?
Now, an observation on this. Average buyer expects starting negotiation at least 10,000 lower than the listed price, right?
Yeah.
And if the seller has the feeling that, okay, my house is supposed to be listed this, but I don't want to give up any more less, it's gonna make, even if more potential buyer are coming, it might be difficult to negotiate with the buying side.
I think that's a very good question. In life, there is no perfect situation. Everything is trade-off. When you make a decision to do one thing, there is always a negative drawback. There is no doubt, they say, you have to have some room for negotiation, but the trade-off is that you will lose some of the potential buyers. That's one. But the second thing about buyers, because I have worked quite enough with them, so I know, even if the price is lower than the market value, they still tell you, you know what, go with 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000. Let's try lower with that, okay? But if the listing agent did a good job listing it below market value, the seller, the listing agent, they're very confident. They will come back and say, this is our price, take it or leave it, okay? So when they come back and say, take it or leave it, those of you that are experienced with buyers, the buyer will compare in their head, you know, the neighbor's house is already 15,000 more than this house. So, you know what, let's go with this one. So they will try to push you, but they're intelligent enough to understand that they have seen 20, 30, 50 houses, and this is the best price, even if it will sell at full asking price. So number one, it is a trade-off. Yes, you want some room for negotiation, but you will lose some potential buyers. But the second and most important one is that buyers are intelligent. They have already compared. They know this is the best priced. Yeah. I know they will push you, reality is, but that's the case.
Okay, we will conclude the session now. Thank you.
Okay, those of you that are